Hi, Dan.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'll put the
Good.
video on. I'm not. Am I on video now?
Not right now.
I'm really a novice with Skype, so
It's
just bear with me.
no
If
worries.
I hang up on you, and
It's not
there we go.
personal. There we go.
We on?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
on.
good.
Yeah. No, how are you?
Far less presentably visual than you.
This is just I haven't got changed from work. Apologies for
But
rude
to be on
invasion.
the dressing gown, and
No, do you know I did?
yeah,
I saw my pajamas by the door and I thought, shall I? Probably should. Yeah, I know Skype's such an old school thing. It's just because, and I don't know what you used to record your podcast when you were doing that, but the software that I've got auto records Skype conversations, so I don't forget hitting record. Basically.
oh, that's good. Yeah,
Mm.
I just used to use a HS2, I think it was called.
Okay.
Oh no, hang on, that's the high speed rail network,
I was
isn't
gonna
it?
say that's.
That's the. It's been a long day. I think it was it had a H in it and a two in it. I don't know what
Okay.
it was, but it was just
Fine.
like a little box thing. But
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, all good. But thanks for asking me.
No. Thanks for being on. And have you been suitably briefed? I mean, there's nothing really to be briefed on as such, but
Yeah, I've been given like a couple of. I think there was three sort of areas to talk about, but I'm happy to just go wherever
well,
you
just
want.
have a
To be honest.
chat, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the and not to take too much of your time, but the kind of premise of this is, I've after having my second kid, I kind of found it quite difficult to want to sort of be able to say, right, I want to work's still important to me, whatever work is, but so is family, and the two aren't kind of mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And that's where this has been born out of, really.
Mm.
And so, for me, I think it'd be really good just to talk about where the learner parent came from, and
Yeah.
good starting point, and then to talk about Toddlergeddon. It sounds really fun, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you're playing at the stables, which is just down the road from me. So
Oh, great.
I'll be popping
Yeah.
along to that, so I can come and say
Oh,
hello as
brill.
well.
Yeah. Great.
And then just around that kind of that balancing angle, being on tour, having kids,
Yeah.
and how you kind of deal with that, if that works for
Great.
you.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds really good.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Brilliant. I will apologise in advance 'cause I do have a beer on tap, so
That's good. I've got water.
that's the more sensible choice. Um, cool. Well, I'll just intro you, and then we'll just go from there. Is that all right?
Brill.
Cool.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Career Dad Show, and tonight I'm joined right now by Sam Avery, aka The Learner Parent. And Sam's an award-winning comedian, a best-selling author. He's also host of the Learner Parent podcast and is on his second UK tour with Toddlergeddon. He's father to twins Zach and Ben, husband to wife Rachel, and tonight a guest on the Career Dad Show. So Sam, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's very exciting to be here.
It's very exciting to have you on. So look, the Learner Parent, how did that come about?
Well, I've done stand-up comedy for no, hang on, where are we? It's 2020 now, isn't it? So I've done it
It
for
is.
17 years.
Jeez.
2003, I did my first gig.
Okay.
So by the time my kids were born in 2015, I'd already been on the circuit for many, many years, and loved doing that job, loved doing stand-up, always wanted to do stand-up from an early age, really. And then when the kids were born, obviously, as anyone who's been through parenthood knows, every single day has got these crazy new challenges, and a lot of them logistical at the beginning, but also emotional. And whenever there's a challenge, there's often a lot of failure. And whenever there's a lot of failure, there's a lot of comedy. So, because like most comedy routine stories, or certainly the stuff I do, tends to come from the moments when I don't quite match up to what I think I should be doing,
Sure.
rather than me talking about, I have some lovely days with my kids, but I don't tend to dwell on them that much in the comedy, because it's a little bit dull for everyone if it just come on and go, we went to the beach and we made sandcastles, and on the way back to the car, one of my kids told me, "You love me, good night." It's
Yeah.
like, come on, we want our money back. So tell us about any weed in your eye. That's much more funny. So when I started, when I suppose during the pregnancy and also during the labour, especially with my wife having twins, there was all these mad emotions going through my head, and
Sure.
all these new things that you've got to learn. And I've always made notes about anything vaguely amusing that happens to me, or any thoughts that go through my head, just in case it can become a routine at some point in the future. I think most comedians do that, because you're always trying to generate new ideas, new angles on things. And one of my friends said, you should start a blog. And I had this real negative image in my head of what blogger meant because I didn't know what it was. And the only one I could think of was, what was his name? It was Perez Hilton. He's like a celebrity LA blogger.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I wasn't a big fan of what he did. And he was always on these like gossip shows. It was just terrible stuff. And I thought, oh no, I don't want to be like him. And as I know, and as you'll know, and as probably most people listening to this will know, the blogosphere is this huge spectrum of different subjects with different viewpoints, and you can kind of talk about whatever you want, really, as long as you're being honest, I think. So my friend who suggested I should do that, I thought, well, if I try it out online, maybe it'll save me some time trying it out on stage, and if people think it's funny online, I thought I might get 5 minutes of stand-up out of this. That was as much as I thought. And I started the blog, and quite quickly it started to get a little bit of traction just because I was blogging every day at the start because the kids were sleeping quite a lot.
Okay.
Newborns do sleep quite a lot.
Yeah.
They wake up, they scream, you feed them, they go back to sleep for a couple of hours, and I felt like I had more spare time than before. And then I started this Facebook page, and then a couple of posts kind of got covered by, I think it was the Lad Bible covered one, and then it just kind of exploded from there, really. So it was quite early on. I suddenly developed a bit of an audience, which was surprising but really, really exciting. So that's kind of the genesis of it, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great, and I've been listening to your podcast earlier today, actually, and just having a look through, some of your older posts. And what I really liked is you were talking about your kids and playlists, music playlists. So I think this was going back maybe a few months ago now, but it really resonated with me because I think you were saying one of your sons was really into a foreigner. One of the songs, and just like some of the inappropriate lyrics, and I was thinking, What is probably the most inappropriate song that your kids like at the moment?
There's a couple of Iron Maiden songs that have got I don't know if they've got swear words in, but they're certainly talking about. Is it 2 minutes to midnight? One of the lyrics is to rip the unborn from the womb.
Yes.
It's a bit much, isn't it?
It's a bit.
I mean,
yeah.
They don't know the words and they don't know what that means, and I'm not going to tell them. But there's that, and then but it's amazing how many songs do have like really inappropriate lyrics. Like I remember when they were babies, we used to sing stuff to when you got babies just to keep your own morale up. Really, you're singing to them all the time, and you, I'd be singing like get your pants off, and stuff like that. And just halfway through a song, you're going, this song's not appropriate, is it? Like,
I think we've kind of progressed into a really PC world as well at the same time. So it's probably things that were not appropriate or aren't appropriate now, but you might have got away with kind of 10 or 15 years ago. It's like the only reason it resonated so much is because my oldest is 5.5, and last year we put a playlist together for his birthday, and he just listens to whatever kind of we listen to or his grandparents listen to. So his playlist was like Genesis, Muse, Placebo, proper. But he's at a 5-year-old party, right? So they all want to listen to gonna take my horse to, and it's like no, and like Come On Eileen comes on, and if you've actually really listened to the lyrics of Come On Eileen, and you've got this 5-year-old singing about taking off your dress and stuff, I'm thinking shit, this is not good. So yeah, that really hit home. But it seemed that music played a big part in your life as well, because you toured or you supported Möterhead.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was so long ago. It feels like it happened to another person. But yeah, when I was, I think I was 15. I got into a band with me mates in school, and then when we were 17, we got a record deal. So we ended up going on tour with Möterhead. We toured with Napalm Death 3 times, and I was still living in my mum's. Still had the paper round for the start of it because I was just a kid.
Yeah, and
we got nominated for Best British Newcomers at the Kerrang Awards. We lost out to Placebo.
I mean,
who I've not heard of them since, to be honest.
No.
But it was funny because I think what I always wanted to do was comedy, and I think that the sort of being in the band, the way it all went wrong. I actually did a show at the Edinburgh Festival a couple of years ago called Rock and Dole, which was all about this like quick, almost like next big thing status that we had put on us, and then the quite predictable downfall, and the record deal got annulled. We got money stolen off us, and then we're all back in the job centre. I was working in NatWest Bank about 2 months after being on tour with Möterhead, and it was just like, what has happened to my life?
That's insane.
So that bitterness and cynicism has influenced me perfectly on the stand-up comedy circuit, which I think has been a boon, to be honest.
And so like how, because you hear about this happening, like up and coming like rock bands or solo artists and just getting taken advantage of, and is that, I mean, that happened to you, right? So is that accurate?
To be honest, I was hoping that more people would take advantage of me on tour than they did, to be honest, and it didn't really happen the way it was hoping for. I think we had a manager who kind of nicked a load of money off us, right. But I do think it happens quite a lot. I think it's just the music industry, but even more so now, not that I know much about it nowadays, but with the whole streaming system, the way it works, it's really difficult for anyone to make any money from an artist's point of view. So I think that's why a lot of them, I read this about people charging money for meet and greets and going to watch the sound check. And there was a great selection of pictures of Avril Lavigne, who charged all these fans in Brazil to meet her. But obviously one of her roadies had said, don't go near it, stay 3 foot away from her. So she's kind of leaning in,
right.
And these fans are like this, and she's kind of going, she's miles away from them, and it just looks so awkward. Nice. So I think I might start doing that, not on this next tour, but maybe the tour after that, start charging people 20 quid to come and meet me. I mean, I'll never do that. What a ridiculous thing to do. It's like, unbelievable.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because I know, like, with when I started this podcast, I was really clear that I didn't particularly want to monetize it. I just thought if it helps people, that's why I'll do it, and if it's some enjoyment and things. And then I set up this thing, Patreon, which I don't know if you've come up. Yeah. And then like now I've got 4 Patreons, but one's my wife, two are old uni friends, and one's a guy I worked with in the US, and it's great. But I'm like, guys, you should not be paying me money, and you just feel really bad about it. So I feel like, but
there's it, because I'm a patron, or whatever the opposite is. There's a couple of podcasts I give money to, and I always think, I really like that. When I've set up both direct debits, I've felt this warm glow of helping someone who's creating something that I'm enjoying, that other people are enjoying, that if they didn't do that, I don't know what I'd listen to instead. I'd listen to something definitely I'm less interested in. So it's just encouraging to be able to have that direct access nowadays with people who are creating stuff.
That's true. So the tour, so we'll come on to the Toddlergeddon tour, but so this is your second tour. So can we go back to your first tour? How did that, was that just the podcast? Just because, I mean, as I say, I listened to a few episodes early today when I was driving back from work, and in one of them you talk about how you like it when particularly guys come to the show and they're sat with their arms folded and then they come around at the end. And I was listening at the start, I was like, yeah, it's all right. And by the end, I was hysterically laughing in the car. And I thought, I get this now. This makes sense. So is that? So did the podcast just evolve? Did that just feed into your comedy, and then a tour kind of presented itself?
It's not really the podcast at all. The podcast has been a bit of a damp squib, to be honest. I think people listen, people have enjoyed it, but it's all about the Facebook page. It's all that Facebook page is just what has done everything. It's, and I'm not a big fan of Facebook. No. Going on it and stuff, but because you're able to share posts and you're able to tag friends into videos and stuff. Just the engagement to get on there is unbelievable. And I basically sold all the tickets for the last tour through that Facebook page. Really? So the amount of money we spent on advertising was like, I spent money on Facebook advertising, but not on any like traditional print stuff, because all the audience, you've either never heard of me or you follow me on Facebook and you quite like me. Yeah. So which is quite nice, because it means that I can go and do other gigs, like normal circuit gigs, and just get treated like a normal comic where the audience judge you. And that's a great way of deciding if the material is really funny, because as soon as you put it in front of people who are really engaged and on board and like you already, they do laugh a little bit louder, which is nice. But you want to make it funny from the start, really. So the first tour kind of just came around from, I did the blog, and then I wrote a book off the back of the Facebook page, and the book did well. And then it was the start of 2018. I just thought, I've not done any stand-up. I've got like 150,000 followers, and I've not told them about a single gig I've been doing, because I was still doing some quite rough and ready, like stag and hen, like jonglers style comedy clubs where like I've got this big following in Glasgow, weirdly, but I never told them I was coming to do jonglers in Glasgow, because all it would have been was me standing on the stage like swearing at drunk people after they've, read these really quite emotionally charged, well-written, pieces that I've written. They're like, who's this man standing on the stage just using the F-bomb all the time? So it was a couple of tour promoters got in touch with me and said, look, we've seen how many people you've got on the Facebook page. Are you interested in doing a tour? And I was like, yeah, I really want to do that. So we put a few dates on sale, and I wouldn't say I'm a pessimist. I think that the whole experience with the band is maybe just go, all right, let's not get excited. Let's see what happens. But the first few dates, just the tickets flew out the door. So they just put a load more dates on, and then they extended the tour again. So I ended up doing about 65 dates on the first tour.
Wow.
Did Leicester Square Theatre twice. And it was just like, I'm not over exaggerating to say it was a dream come true. It was amazing, because having done the circuit for, at that point, like 16 years, and enjoyed it, but really having to win the audience over every night, to be able to go on stage in front of, like, some nights it was like 400 or 500 people in, and they were all on board minute one. Like there was a palpable excitement, partly because they're seeing someone they follow for a while, and they know where I'm coming from, and they know what I'm going to talk about, the subject matter. But mainly, as you'll know yourself, we don't get out much, do we? No. So it was like everyone's the only night out of the year. And everyone was like, we are making it a good night of this. So they're all like getting on the ale and stuff, and really just like this positive energy in the room. Yeah. So it was great fun. So yeah, really enjoyed that thing. I still can't believe it happened. It's so much fun.
It does sound amazing, and it's funny, isn't it? Because I guess you've got a load of people who kind of see you every day, and they feel like they're a part of your life, and you've kind of invited them to be a part of your life, which is fantastic. And I bet some people almost come up and say, "Hey Sam, it's me."
Yeah,
hello.
It's mad. But the thing is, that doesn't really happen everywhere. It only happens obviously when I'm doing a show, and I'll do like a meet and greet afterwards, and it's great when everyone comes and says hello and gets selfies, and everyone's going, oh, thanks for staying around. And I'm like, thank you. Yeah. Like, no one's ever asked for this before. I mean, I'm sure I'll get bored of it if it carries on at some point. Become that dead behind the eyes, bitter person that we've all got inside of us. Yeah. But it, like, everywhere else I go, there's nobody recognises me or anything except in the soft play. And if I go to the soft play, I feel like Elvis.
How do you feel about soft play? Because I think, from my perspective, it is one of the most beautiful, best, and also horrific environments that you can kind of drop the kids off and they'll do their own thing, but they might come back with things on them that shouldn't really be in a soft play.
Yeah, there's a few funky smells, and you're not sure who that's coming from. And normally on the way out, I realised it was me all along. the sweat and the lack of fitness. I quite like a soft play now and again, and I say that you're asking me now because my kids are in school, so we don't go that often. I used to go every Monday when I was off with them. I used to go like religiously. We had a direct debit coming out every month. Really? It wasn't quite a Patreon, but it was no. we were paying a monthly fee. Yeah. So we could rock up. We had little membership cards with our faces on them. Wow. Very, very, very cool. Yeah. And that got a bit, I suppose, it got a bit repetitive, but it was good in that the kids were always in school. Not my kids, but all the other kids. Yeah. Before my lad started. So soft play when the kids are in school is like you can just jump around and go on anything. And then when they started going in the same direction each other, my two twin boys, that was like a real, oh my God, now we're a little gang and we're jumping down slides and we're playing together. Yeah. The first couple of years ago, they just go off in different directions every time, and it was really stressful. So it depends. I went to a party on Sunday at a soft play, and I took the two boys. Obviously, I wasn't really invited. The boys were invited. I just went to the parents. My name wasn't on the invite. And it was great because I was just having a brew and chatting to the other parents, and my kids were off playing with all the other kids. And it was only when I was leaving, I thought, I didn't take my shoes off once, and I felt a little bit sad because it felt like another phase of and we just drifted into that other phase where Dad's a bit of an old square. I don't know. That'd be sad.
Is it that, or is it that the kids are going? Because I think kids always idolise their dads. I think up until a good kind of early teens, when they start to think, who is this guy? I think you've got
start to wear you out. Yeah,
exactly. I think you've got a few years left. Yeah, and I won't talk about soft play for the entire podcast, but I don't know if you're the same. But my wife is when we get back from soft play, you almost have to strip off at the door. You know, the clothes get put straight in the wash, and you have to go and get showers and which I think, you know, I put a poll out on Instagram to say, is this not? Apparently, that is quite normal, but I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I think we probably should do that, but we probably don't.
Yeah,
because our house is probably just as grossy, to be honest.
Well,
but
this is the thing.
You should have that, you know, that on the start of the Shawshank Redemption when he goes into the prison and they like strip him off and delouse him, throw all that talc on his bare backside. That's what we should have one of them in the porch just as we come back in.
Just a guy throwing talc.
Yeah, just pay a little fella just to stand there throwing talc. If anyone's listening and wants the job, DM me.
Yeah, we'll put the details on the podcast. So that leads us nicely onto Toddlergeddon. So second UK tour. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Toddlergeddon's the evolution, and I'm assuming it's to do with the life stage that both you boys are at now.
Well,
going through.
They're 4 and a bit now. They're going to be 5 in March, so they're not toddlers anymore. So no. I just came up with the name Toddlergeddon. I thought it was a really good title.
It's pretty cool.
A really good word.
Yeah.
And I thought I had the idea of the poster and all that of me with the water pistol and me pajamas on coming out of this like apocalyptic thing, and all that came together. And we put it on sale, and then I suddenly thought they're not going to be toddlers when I'm doing this show. But obviously, I've written all the material while they were toddlers, so it's stand-up routines. It's not all just a story, but there's a sort of a couple of bigger stories that take place during the toddler years, which is I don't know what that is officially, but I suppose it's between the age that they start walking, and I've used that first day of school as like the last day of being a toddler, because that's, you know, you're a child then, aren't you? So it's all about that, and it's all about just like, you know, what is Toddlergeddon? Like I've sort of got a few different definitions of it. One is that moment late in the day when you get a phone call from your partner to say they're going to be working late, and you're like, what? And they're just so blasé about it, and just you're tapping out to Toddlergeddon. Because I sometimes, like when my wife's getting in from work, or certainly when they were younger, I'd like hear the key in the door, and I now know what dogs are like when they hear their owners come home. So I'm like, she's home, finally, thank God. And I'm sure she's the same, vice versa. So I've done a couple of previews for the show. It starts on the 30th of January, so I've got another sort of warm-up. I've got another 3 or 4 warm-ups next week, and then it'll be ready to hit the road. But it's looking really good, and I think it's better than the last show, which is kind of what I wanted it to be. Funnier, more intelligent, and just more memorable, I think, which I think it will be.
That's awesome. Well, this is going to... I just have to look at my watch to see what date it is. So it's the 20th. So this will be going out on the 27th. So this will be a few days before the tour starts. And just on that getting home piece, my wife always used to say to me that when Countdown came on, that's when she knew, you know, that is her countdown to me coming home.
How very apt.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And then Tipping Point took over, and the pun didn't work as well. So, but yeah, so starting on the 30th, and you're everywhere. And what I wanted to do actually, because I was listening to one of your podcasts earlier, and you mentioned the tour dates, and the other day I was having a look, and unless my geography is really really bad, are you just going up and down and up and down and up and down?
Well, a little bit, but there's days when I can come home as well. So I don't want to be. I'm the last tour. I wasn't away that much really. Okay. I was away for like the most I was away for was 3 nights, I think, and a lot of it was 1-2 night runs, and then I come home. So it was mainly weekends, you know. Whereas this one's a bit more intensive because there's a lot more dates crammed into a lot less time. So. Yeah. But there are little gaps in between. I do come home as much as I can because it's, you know, let's be honest, 1 night away from your kids in a hotel is absolute bliss, like for everyone. Yeah. 2 nights is a bit, it's still nice, but it's a bit too much. 3 nights is far too much.
Yeah.
You just feel like you're not playing the role that you want to play in their life, and you feel like you're not helping your partner as much. And so I think this one I've got like a 7 nights when I'm away on the bounce, I think, which is I'm dreading already, to be honest. But really? My wife's really supportive. She couldn't be more supportive. She's great, you know, and she understands that. Well, I've sort of said, you know, I'll take the brunt of it after that.
Yeah,
so you can go off and do something. Because I mean, without my wife, it'd just be really, really impossible to do all of this.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and so when you say, you know, I get it, it's hard when you're away because you're away. But listening earlier, it seems you're big on running and trying to keep fit. And how's that going? Does being away almost help? Because I think from my perspective, I had a gym membership, found that I never got the time to go, so then I was like, oh, I've got a garage, so I put a treadmill and some weights in there. Then when my second was born, that was the last day that stuff has been used, and that was a good 6 months ago. But hearing you talk about running 3-4 times a week, and a few years ago I did the London Marathon and just loved running. Wow. And I was just thinking, oh, I really want to get back into running. So just wondering how you're getting on with that.
Well, at the moment, I'm in a really good place fitness-wise, because it was last year, and it was towards the tail end of the first tour. I just started to feel old, like really old. Like I turned 41 last year in 2019, and but I just felt physically old, mentally slow. I just felt really like jaded, and I was trying to exercise, but I wasn't eating very well now. And the last like 4 or 5 months, I've just been eating quite well, eating less, eating right, exercising a bit smarter, and I just feel like a lot better. I'll tell you, the first tour was a bit of an eye-opener to how I am going to operate on the next one. Is that probably the first 4 or 5 dates of the first tour, it was such a mind-blowing experience, because, like I say, I'd spent so long kind of bobbing around on the circuit to suddenly have these wonderful gigs to do, and I'm on stage for an hour and a half instead of 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a maybe sometimes 45-minute meet and greet at the end, and so your adrenaline's running, your ego's huge.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, right, the first few dates, I remember it was Bristol, I went back into the dressing room and I looked in the mirror and I just said, what do we do now, Sam? Because I'm on my own. There's no tour manager. There's no one doing merch. It's just me. I turn up, I do the show, and I leave. And I just remember going back to the hotel and having like 5 or 6 pints on my own. And I did that for a few times.
Yeah.
I just felt so hungover the next day. And I know that the next show wasn't as good as it should have been, because I was just slightly hungover. And I just thought, I can't do this all the time. So I've got this formula now where I do the show, do the meet and greet, and then I walk back to the hotel. And by the time I'm about halfway back to the hotel, the adrenaline is just gone. I get back into the room, I look at the bed and I just go, oh, and I just have the most amazing 10 hours sleep. Because 10 hours sleep when you got kids,
I don't understand the words that you're saying.
Exactly. I know, I'm talking Klingon right now, and it makes no sense. But how dare I ruin that opportunity to have that beautiful sleep by having, 4 or 5 pints of IPA that I'm not even enjoying, and I'm on my own.
Yeah.
So I nipped that in the bud very quickly on the first tour, and I think I'm hoping for the next one. I know I'll do this. I'll just be really sensible, because I want the next show to be as good as it can be, and I want to be clear-headed and enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, and so. Because I've never done anything like stand-up. Funnily enough, it's something that I've always wanted to give a go, but just always felt a bit too nervous about doing. But to do so many shows on the bounce and in such short space of time, do you must have kind of a set core material, but it kind of goes off in different ways. Is that how it works, or? Yeah,
a little bit. I think with the first show, and probably with the second one, it's there's certain parts of the show that are a little bit flexible, and there's certain parts that you can kind of you can go off on tangents each night, but then the spine of the show will be, there's a beginning, a middle, and end to the show. As much as it's kind of sporadic stand-up routines, it's kind of all tied together by various topics that I kind of cover, and then there's a very definite kind of finale to the show. So, but you've got to keep it fresh in your own mind, otherwise, about 2 months in to any material that you're doing, you just it so well, you end up doing the same action with your hands, exactly the same, and you're saying the words, and then you're not in the moment, you're not actually talking to the audience, you're just reciting lines in your head, and they might still be laughing, but it's not quite the same as when you're really connecting with them. So you've got to try and keep things fresh. So even if it's just like change a reference now and again, or say if I'm just listing off a bunch of TV shows, not as part of a punchline, but as part of a setup, if I just change them each night, it'll just invigorate the rest of it. So just keeps it fresh, really, because once you stop enjoying it, it becomes a little bit more clear for the audience that you just phone it in, and that's the last thing as a comic you want to do. You want to keep it fresh.
Exactly, because it was so clear, doing my kind of social media stalking and reading up on you, that there's almost something just innately within that is there to entertain, and whether that be through music or through comedy or your book or your podcast or the Facebook group, and so but some of that must to entertain yourself, and I really like you're talking about the ego and the adrenaline, and I don't think that's and I don't think you mentioned it as kind of a bad thing, but I don't think it would be a bad thing at all. I think it's that's your reward,
Oh yeah,
cash aside, like that's your
it's I think it's important for anyone who's doing something like that to be self-aware that sometimes your ego becomes like swelled momentarily, because I mean, what's great about my wife and my kids, and in fact anyone who's got little kids will know this, like it doesn't matter who you are, what you've done or what you've just achieved, you come home and you just got to get straight back into it, which is great. When my book was, it's dead funny. My wife is the funniest person I've ever met. She had all the funniest lines in my book. She gets all the funniest lines in me stand-up shows. When my book was delivered to the house, the publishers on the front had put, "From the Facebook sensation, Sam Avery," and she just looked at that and she said to me, "Who do you think you are?"
Yeah.
Go and put the bins out, Facebook sensation. I was like, all right. I needed that because I was getting a little bit full of myself there. Yeah. So I think everyone needs that in their life. Otherwise, you become Axl Rose, don't you? Nobody wants. So, but that entertaining side, it's probably just, I don't know, there's probably like, and I joke about this, but there's a part of me that thinks it's probably serious, and a lot of comics are the same. There's probably this deep-seated need for approval from strangers for some reason. I don't know why it's there. Because my mum and dad gave me the best childhood I could have wished for, and they're still around and they love me. They gave me this lovely, beautiful, supportive childhood, but there's just this weird desire. But I think a big part of it is it's so much fun.
Yeah,
it's the most fun that you can have to make your living. And certainly in my experience, it's like you come off, and I still get this at gigs when I do the gig and I'm leaving. I'm going, "See you later, everyone." And they're going, "Oh, thanks. We haven't paid you yet." And I'm like, "Oh God, yeah, I get paid as well." Don't tell anyone, but I'd be there. I'd be doing it for free because it's so much fun. So, to kind of make that your living as well is quite a nice feeling.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've heard comics say about this is quite a weird thing to be a comic, because by the very nature, you want to put yourself out there in front of a group of strangers and almost seek approval. But it's almost like, not to get kind of too deep and philosophical, but maybe that because there is some selfishness in how it makes you feel in making other people kind of happy. And maybe that you've had such a nice life and upbringing that you just want to share that with others.
Pass that on.
Pass it.
You know what? While here's something for you. While we're on the psychiatrist's chair, it feels like that Radio 4 show at the moment, which I'm enjoying, by the way.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, the first job I ever wanted to do was be an ice cream man.
Same.
And it was because, we are. Let's get a franchise going. And I think it was because ice cream made me so happy. I just thought, wouldn't it be great to be driving around and people come up to your van and you make them just as happy as ice cream makes me? So I think that's probably the comedy's the natural follow-on from that.
Yeah.
And maybe if it all goes, pear-shaped, I can go and sell cornettos.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe you could incorporate. You could walk around the aisles at the interval. And,
I could go to the cinemas, couldn't I, and do to be like the comedy, or I could hire myself out for weddings and be like the comedy ice cream man.
I'll tell you what, that'd get booked.
Probably doing that already, yeah.
That'd get booked. So the tour at the moment, how many dates are on Toddlergeddon?
I really should count, shouldn't I? I think it's about 35, maybe, something like that. It runs till May.
I was going to say, it's a good 4-5 months.
Yeah. It's mainly February, March, and then there's a couple in April, a couple in May. But I was so nervous about the show until the weekend just gone, because then I did these 2 previews, 2 nights running up in the Lake District, and the first night was good, and then the second night was just brilliant. And I can feel, I know where the improvements need to be made, I know where the weak points are, and I know how to fix them, I think. So I just need to do the polishing now, all the stuff there. Because my fear was that I wouldn't have enough material, because it's quite a lot to write an hour and a half worth of stand. Because a lot of people, when they do a new show, they'll do an hour or an hour and 15, and they might take 18 months to write this. And I've kind of written an hour and a half in a year, which might not sound like a lot, but because it's all got to be funny. You've got to have a laugh every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot of jokes that you've got to write. So it was just really pleasing to think, oh, I thought I might have 20 minutes, but I think I've got about 100 minutes. So I actually just need to start like chopping stuff out now, which is always a nice feeling.
That's brilliant. Well, so on the 30th of January, it starts. If anyone does want to get a ticket and see where the tour is heading to, if you go to thelearnerparent.com, all the tour dates are on there, and I'll put a link in this bio, and when we share it through the Career Dad social channels, then people can kind of find it there as well. And as I say, I'll be coming to see you at the stable, so that should be
great.
Should be good fun.
Yeah.
And kind of the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about was around, you mentioned it yourself, right? You've been away, you're away on tour, admittedly, for a few days at a time, even though more so this time. But how do you deal with that? You obviously got a career that you love, and if someone told you had to stop, would probably find quite difficult. But how do you kind of reconcile that emotional balance between being present dad and also doing something that you love?
For me, if I wasn't doing a job I loved, I think I would be deeply unhappy. And if I was deeply unhappy, I definitely would be a worse father to my kids. So doing the job I do, and I'm really lucky we live in Liverpool, and there's so many comedy clubs and open mic nights that you can try stuff out at during the week. And some nights I'll do a gig and I'll still be home for sort of 8 o'clock, and I've done a gig already. So it's also allowed me to be able to do the drop off at school every day, and I pick them up a couple of days a week as well. So I feel like if I wasn't to do this job, I'd probably be working maybe not longer hours, but different hours, more regular hours. And I think this job is so flexible. It's allowed me to spend some incredible quality time with them. Now they're in school doing that as well. But in the first 4 years of their life, being able to be present and around. And my fear when they were born is that I'd be away a lot. And actually, I don't think I've been away hardly at all in terms of overnight stays until this first tour, which I've kind of written about them. So it's sort of their fault that I've done it. But even then, I don't think I was away as much as I thought it would be or feared it would be. And I think with this, there's just these couple of runs in this next tour that I'm kind of looking at in the diary, and I'm a bit like, oh, that's a long time, but they'll be over soon enough. And then the second half of the year, I shouldn't be away barely at all. So I've managed to balance that, but through being very aware of that's what I wanted to do. I do turn down opportunities, and I do turn down gigs if they're just too far away, or I've got to stay away for a couple of nights. Unless it's the right thing for me to do, I tend to just turn it down. But I'm lucky I can do that now because of I'm fortunate that so many people bought tickets and are buying tickets for the next show. Because I know it's not something everyone can do, but I feel fortunate that that's the situation I'm in. So it's great to be around. You don't want to miss these little phases. Maybe when they become teenagers, I might want to miss longer phases of that. But
for sure.
When they're at this age, like every week, there's like a new development and a new word or there's a new sort of sense that they've got, and it's golden. And I want to be an old man sitting in my rocking chair thinking, I'm glad I didn't go to Skegness on that Saturday for 300 quid. I'm glad I turned it down because I got to take them swimming or to gymnastics or whatever, and enjoy that. So hopefully that can continue.
No, I love it. And almost as you were answering, I was thinking that my question was probably quite loaded because it was, and unintentionally so, just because my perception is the work that you do is evening work, it's weekends, it's away, which it could be, but that means by its very nature, it's not weekday daytimes. There's balance. You're not working 24 hours, right? And you've got to do writing, you've got to do but like you say, you can do the drop off, you can do the pickup, you can go to soft play when it's empty and probably have a better experience than if you were trying to cram it all in on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Definitely, yeah. And because the Northwest, Liverpool, Manchester, even Leeds, it's not the Northwest, but the North, there's so many comedy clubs. You can, whether it's a weekday or a weekend, you don't have to leave your house till maybe 5 o'clock. Some days it's like 7 o'clock. So I'll put them to bed, then I'll jump in the car and then I'll go and do the gig. So I've literally not missed anything other than I've missed a nice night with my wife, but as long as you can balance that up with some nights in together as well. It's all about balance, I suppose, isn't it? Not to sound like Master Yoda. It is about balance between enjoying what you do, sort of trying to be ambitious and push that a little bit further, but not at the expense of what's really important. But equally, if you because when you get these memes on Facebook and they say, don't go to work today, walk along the beach, spend the day with your children, you think, all right, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's going to pay the mortgage?
Yeah.
Go and spend a day with your kids, buy a tent, go and live in that in the woods because you can't afford a house. It's the balance in it between the two.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's why when we started talking and you were saying that a lot of your comedy came from failure, and to show the kind of the nice moments are boring, and you focus on kind of, I'm a huge believer in that. And I think a lot of what I share, particularly on Instagram, is just the failure moments. It's my son screaming in the back of the car because he's in the photo, and it's just this, we're not all trying to live our best lives. This is just real, right? And just balance is kind of the buzzword of the decade, but it's true. And something that you said as well that really resonated was happiness. And I think that because I get it, right, because I've got my day job, which is quite full on. I've got this that I'm trying to career that I'm trying to build up as well, and then 2 kids, wife, and it's the things I have to sacrifice something to kind of make that all work, but those 3 things I'm not willing to. So for me at the moment, it's exercise and sleep. Now that's not a great long-term plan, but it's what I need to do for now. And I think that with happiness, I know with my son, as I say, he's 6 this summer, and sometimes he'll say, "Oh, why are you going to do this?" Or because I do still enjoy my golf, and say, "Why are you going to play golf?" And rightly or wrongly, sit down with him and say, "Look, I've spent 3 hours playing whatever Lego this morning, but this is important to me too. You are the most important, but this is important." And hopefully he just kind of understands that sense of doing things for him as he gets older, and tries to not feel like there's pressure for him to do anything apart from whatever makes him happy.
Of course,
that's my plan.
Yeah. I think if you're in a better place in your own mind, then you're going to be better for the people around you.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm driving to Hull in 5 minutes. Love is what I say to my wife.
Yeah, Hull. I lived in Hull for a year.
I'm doing a preview in Hull actually on the 29th.
Whereabouts?
The Comedy Lounge. It's my final preview.
Yeah.
So it's a nice city, Hull. It's good.
It is. Yeah. It's I lived there for a year, and I had I used to work in the US, and I had some friends come and stay. They came to the UK for one of the first times to Hull. And they were, they told their friends to go to Hull, and everyone, the American friends were like, "Where's Hull?" And then the UK friends would say, "Why are you going to Hull?" But they loved it because, the part of the city that wasn't bombed is kind of great architecture. And they were, I think the people are brilliant.
Oh, they're lovely.
Yeah.
There used to be a gig there in a place called Fruit, which was up by, I don't know where, it was like it's right on the waters, I think it was. And it was just in this old warehouse, and there was no one there. And it was great for about 2 years. And I went there, I hadn't been there for about 6 months, and I drove back.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there was these fake new cobbled streets, and there was all these microbreweries around it. And this like hipster place had just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then about 6 months later, the gig closed down because someone had, the lease had changed on the warehouse, and it was just a shame for everyone. It was like, that was bound to happen because the gentrification of that area was unreal. But it means there's a lot more for people to see and do. So swings and roundabouts.
Brilliant. The last question is what's next? So I know that's probably the wrong question to ask because you're about to kick off this new tour. But what do you think's next after Toddlergeddon?
I'll probably have to come up with a title for something in the next 6 months. So I should probably start thinking. I'm going to use this as impetus to start actually thinking about it myself, because I suppose there's there seems to be an audience of people who will come and see me again. And if I can, I mean, the exciting part for me is if people enjoy this second show, hopefully they'd want to come and see a third show and a fourth show. And whether I keep talking about parenthood again is up in the air, because how long can you just keep talking about that for 90 minutes each time without it getting a little bit boring or a little bit repetitive? But equally, that's the subject matter that this audience has gravitated towards me for. So I think with the third show, what I would like to do is kind of that tricky third album, as bands call it. I would have a kind of a mixture of stuff about being a parent, because I'm always going to talk about what I'm doing at the time, that's the most important thing to me at the time. But also kind of bringing other subjects as well, just to kind of mix it up a little bit and almost show the audience that I can make them laugh, not just talking about baby change seats or whatever. And then just see how that goes really. But I'm totally focused on this Toddlergeddon tour, because it's just going to be it's going to be ace. I'm so excited to start it properly, and it always changes slightly as you're doing it as well. So kind of and keeping all the videos coming on my Facebook page as well. So just putting them together and doing a few nice sketches and stuff. And
I love it. I did see the video about Tarquin parking in the it's just brilliant.
I was quite pleased with that.
It was brilliant. Well, Sam, thank you so much for taking time out to come and chat to me and to the Career Dad audience, and best of luck for Toddlergeddon. And as I said, for anyone that wants to still get tickets, you can at thelearnerparent.com. Links will be shared when this goes live on the 27th. 30th is when you start, 27th is when this goes out. So thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me, and keep it up with this podcast. It's really it's great to see people doing good stuff that's useful for people.
No, thank you.